Sairam and welcome to this session in computational linear algebra where we are going to discuss regarding the transpose of a matrix. Let us begin this session with a prayer. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tanna Sarva Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. In the previous session, we had a good idea about what is inverse of a matrix and we looked at interesting properties of the inverse. In this session, on a similar line, we are going to look at what's transpose of a matrix and a few interesting properties of the transpose. This is how we define or denote the transpose. Put the matrix name and T above it, and the transpose of a matrix is defined as the ijth element of the transpose comes from the jith element of the original matrix, and this is defined, the transpose is defined for any matrix. When we say any matrix, it means that any order. So it need not be a square matrix, it can be any order, right? An m by n matrix will produce an n by m matrix in the transpose. A very easy property to understand: if we have two matrices, the transpose of the sum is the sum of their transposes. We can take a simple example to just think about it, and this should not be a problem at all. But more interesting would be to look at the transpose of the product. Similar to the inverse of the product, we find that the transpose of the product is the product of the transposes but in reverse order, right? So here is again, we look at the reverse order coming in, it is B transpose A transpose. Let's try and prove this, and we are just going to look at our column view and row view of multiplication in order to prove this. What is the first row of the product transpose? The first row of the product's transpose is obviously the first column of the product AB. The first column of AB is nothing but a linear combination of the columns of A using the first column of B. How do we know this? We know this from the column view of multiplication. Okay, now that we are saying that this linear combination of the columns of A using the elements from first column of B, we can also write it as a linear combination of the rows of A transpose. Columns of A are nothing but rows of A transpose, and we are using the elements from first column of B. We are writing here it as using the elements from the first row of B transpose, right? Now look at the row view of multiplication. The linear combination of the rows of A transpose using the elements from the first row of B transpose. When we look at row view of multiplication, this will give us B transpose A transpose, right, and not A transpose B transpose. Please do review in case there is a question of why it's not A transpose B transpose. The idea behind row view of multiplication is we are using the the elements from the row of the first matrix in order to produce combinations of the rows of the second matrix, right? And therefore this would become B transpose A transpose, and that proves our property here. Okay, let's go to another interesting property. It says A inverses transpose is same as A transposes inverse, right? So if we assume that we have a matrix and that it's also invertible, which means that A inverse exists, I think then we can discuss about this part. If we know A and A inverse, it is very easy to find the inverse of A transpose. That's what this statement tells us. What it says is, if we want A transposes inverse, right? Look at the right hand side here. If we want A transposes inverse, all that we need to do is, once you obtain A inverse, just transpose that and we get the inverse of A transpose, right? Let's try and prove this. We know that A inverse is equal to I. Apply the transpose on both sides, so this would become I transpose, we know is the same identity. This product transpose, we just saw that it's going to reverse in the individual products, and therefore this would become A inverse transpose times A transpose, and we know that that is equal to I, right? And what does this statement convey to us? It says A transpose is multiplied by some matrix here in order to get the identity, which means A transpose has got multiplied effectively by A transpose inverse. And what do we have here? We have A inverse transpose, and therefore A transpose inverse has got to be this one, which is A inverse transpose. Suppose we want to prove the other way, we could also take A inverse A equal to I and then try the same logic, and we would obtain this statement. Okay, so that's another interesting property. Now we move to another property of combining the transpose along with the original matrix and checking if they are the same, right? If there are matrices where the transpose and the original is the same, then we call it a symmetric matrix, right? So here it is. So we are saying that if A transpose is equal to A, then A is said to be a symmetric matrix. But an obvious observation from here is that it has got to be a square matrix. So if I have a 4 by 3 matrix and its transpose is 3 by 4, we can never say that they will be equal. So it's obvious that it's got to be a square matrix, right? So maybe we can look at a simple example. Let's say that I have on the diagonal some different terms, but if the off diagonal terms in a 2 by 2 happens to be same, let's say that this is A. Try and look at A transpose, right? Look at A transpose. The first row becomes the first column, second row becomes the second column here. So first row I write the first column, second row is here, the second column, and you see very identical matrices here, right? So this is an example of a symmetric matrix. And symmetric matrices also have some beautiful properties, and let's look at a few of them. So here is one interesting property of symmetric matrix. If A is symmetric matrix and invertible, then A inverse is also going to be symmetric. Okay, if A is symmetric matrix and invertible, A inverse is also symmetric, and that's why we are imposing on two conditions here, saying that it should be symmetric and invertible, because it's not that every symmetric matrix is invertible, right? We have examples here. Symmetric matrices need not be invertible. So look at these matrices, they are definitely not invertible, right? You have a all zero matrix, it's symmetric but it's not invertible. In this case, I just use the determinant logic which we had learnt in school, and I found that the determinant of this matrix is 0, so it can't be invertible. Okay, now if A is symmetric and invertible, then A inverse should also be symmetric. Let's try and prove this statement. Okay, now we know this property, we just proved this, one of the properties above, that A inverse transpose is nothing but A transpose is inverse. Okay, but what is given to us? It's given that A is symmetric, which means that A transpose is same as A. So instead of A transpose, substitute this A here, right? And what do we get? A inverse is transpose is equal to A inverse, right? And what does that tell us? A inverse is symmetric, right? That's it. That's a very simple but a very neat property. We can also generate symmetric matrices, right? Given any matrix, we can always generate a symmetric matrix. The logic is to we can take any matrix, let R be any matrix, R times R transpose will always be symmetric, and we also have R transpose times R will also be symmetric, right? So we can quickly prove this. R transpose, look at the transpose of this. We know the transpose of a product is going to invert the order, so I get R transpose times R transpose, and we know that this is idempotent. Therefore, this would now become sorry, it's not idempotent. I shouldn't use the term idempotent, but R transpose will bring us back to R. So this becomes R transpose, which is same as where we started from. Therefore, R transpose is symmetric. Okay. Similarly, look at this here. Take the transpose. This becomes R transpose times R transpose, which is again R transpose R, which makes it symmetric, right? We took the transpose and we proved that same as this product. Okay, but there is one important catch here. It's not necessary, or many times it is maybe quite different with respect to R transpose and R transpose R. These two matrices are symmetric. That doesn't make them the same, right? R transpose is totally different from R transpose R. Here is a simple example. Let's say I have a 1 row 2 column matrix, 1 by 2 matrix. Its transpose is 2 by 1 matrix. If we look at RTR, it gives us 2 by 1 times 1 by 2, which will be a 2 by 2 matrix. Whereas RRT is got to be 1 by 2 by into 2 by 1 matrix. That will give me a 1 by 1 matrix, right? So there's a huge difference between them. But what we can notice is, we can see that this is a symmetric matrix, right? Similarly, 1 by 1 by default will become a symmetric matrix. Now here is another very interesting and a very useful property that we will try and prove. We are going to assume that A is symmetric and invertible. We have to prove that U is L transpose. Now, where do we get the U and L from? We are assuming that A has got factored into LDU. Okay, how is it possible? That's because it's invertible, right? And that's the property we are going to use. If A is invertible, we know that it has got n pivots. We had proved this earlier. And when we know it, if A has n pivots, we know that LU factorization will be successful. So we can make this assumption that A is equal to LDU is definitely possible, right? So that's the statement we have got. A is symmetric and invertible, which means that A is equal to LDU is very much possible. We are supposed to prove that U is L transpose, or in effect, we are supposed to prove that A now becomes LD L transpose, right? We should try and prove this. But before we do that, we are going to attempt proving an alternate result, which is going to be very helpful in proving this main result. We are going to prove that the factors are unique, which means that if A gets factored into L, D and U, then we don't have any other factors whose combination in this fashion can bring back A, right? We are trying to prove that these factors are unique, and we will try to do this using contradiction. Okay, so we are going to assume that we have a pair of factors instead of saying only one set of factors. Let's assume that A has got L1 D1 U1 and L2 D2 U2. Obviously our assumption is we are trying to assume L1 is not equal to L2, D1 not equal to D2, U1 not equal to U2, etc., and trying to go ahead, and we may land up in proving that L1 and L2 has got to be the same. Let's see how we proceed. Okay. In order to prove this, two very important properties are going to come to our aid, and which we have already learnt earlier, is that the product of lower triangular matrices will also be lower triangular, and inverse of lower triangular matrices will also be lower triangular. Now we can also use the logic on upper triangular matrix, same property. So product of upper triangular matrix will be upper triangular, and inverse of an upper triangular matrix will also be upper triangular. Okay, so from these two equations we have that L1 D1 U1 is equal to L2 D2 U2. Let's pre-multiply both sides with L1 inverse, and therefore that would the L1 will vanish here, but it would appear here. So we'll have L1 inverse L2 D2 U2. Let's post multiply both sides by U2 inverse. Therefore this side I would have a U2 inverse, but this side it would disappear, right? This is a very key equation that we have with us. It says D1 U1 times U2 inverse is equal to L1 inverse L2 D2. Okay, very interesting property here. U1 and U2 inverse we know have to be upper triangular, and why? Because U2 is upper triangular, its inverse must be upper triangular. U1 U2 inverse, this product will be upper triangular, and we have an upper triangular matrix times a diagonal matrix on the left hand side, which will effectively only make it upper triangular. It can never become lower triangular. Similarly, look at the right hand side here. We know that L2 is lower triangular. L1 inverse is inverse of a lower triangular matrix, so it will also be lower triangular. Product of these two will remain to be lower triangular. A lower triangular times a diagonal matrix has got to give us only lower triangular matrix, can never become any other, and therefore the right hand side is actually becoming lower triangular, which means this effectively has to be upper triangular and lower triangular. Whichever matrix we are talking about, this entire product has to be upper triangular as well as lower triangular, which makes it that this product has to be a diagonal matrix, right? Okay, now let's look at each of those individual parts. Let's take this left hand side, D1 U1 U2 inverse. We know something about them. In LDU, when we did the factorization, we said we want L and U to be looking similar, and we wanted ones on the diagonal of the upper triangular matrix. Then that's when we shifted from LU to LDU, and therefore U1 and U2 inverse will definitely have ones in their diagonal, right? Now when you take the product of them, that will obviously also have only ones in its diagonal. Now I've just given an example here for us to understand. I pick up some U1 and some U2, right? It's not necessary I have to take U1 and U2 inverse. I have just taken two upper triangular matrices with ones on the diagonal. The interesting property is you will definitely see a 1 in its product. So you could use either the row view of multiplication or the column view of multiplication to understand this. So let me try and look at why the diagonal is becoming 1. Now if we take these columns, right, say 1 0 0 2 1 0 and 3 4 1, right, take the combinations with 1 0 and 0, no contribution from the last two columns, only contribution from the first column, therefore the 1 will appear here. Let's look at the second row of this product, second column of this product. The second column of this product comes from the combination of these three columns using the elements from the second column of the second matrix. So it's going to be minus 2 times the first column, so it might produce something here. 1 times the second column, it might produce something here, and they may get added to give something, but the point is there can't be any change to the 1 that's going to come in the 2 2 position. Similarly, let's try and argue for the third column of the product. Look at the third column of the product. It comes from linear combination of the three columns using the elements from the third column of the second matrix. So you will have minus 3 times the first column, 4 times the second column, 1 times the third column, and we know that these two elements will be 0 here because it's a upper triangular matrix, and there won't be any contribution to the third element from the first column or the second column. What in effect has to come is only from the third column, and it will get multiplied only by a 1 here because we know that the other upper triangular matrix has also got only ones in its main diagonal, right, and that makes the product also to have ones on its main diagonal, right. So using this property, we will combine what we already know and what we just found. D1 we know is diagonal matrix. D1 U1 U2 inverse has diagonal elements same as D1. Why would that be? Because the product of these two is having ones in its diagonal. The product of these two is having ones in its diagonal. D1 is diagonal, so D1 times this product, which is supposedly having ones in its diagonal, will be diagonal, and its diagonal elements has got to be same as D1 only. Why? Because there are ones on the diagonal of U1 U2 inverse, right. So another example to prove that, I have some diagonal matrix having 1 2 3, some other upper triangular matrix, but the important property this same matrix but having ones in its diagonal, and you see interesting property is 1 2 3 appears on its diagonal. Similarly, use the column view of multiplication, we can easily argue out and say that we will definitely get only the diagonal elements from the first matrix here, right, and this is a very interesting result that we have. D1 U1 U2 inverse is a diagonal matrix, and it has got the diagonal elements same as D1. What does that tell us? That this product has got to be same as D1. That's it, right? So let's look at that now. So we have D1 U1 U2 inverse is diagonal matrix, and its diagonal elements are same as D1, and that means that this product is same as D1. Okay, and what does that tell us? If this is same as D1, this part must be the identity, which means that U1 U2 inverse is got to be identity. And what do we have from here? It says that U1 has got to be same as U2. Okay. Similarly, look at the second product here. We had here L1 inverse L2 D2. Now we could apply the same logic and talk about L1 inverse L2 being lower triangular matrix with ones on its diagonal, and the product having ones on its diagonal. The product times this diagonal matrix will always have the diagonal elements from D2. We know the entire product is diagonal, and it's got elements from D2, which makes it equal to D2, right? And what does this tell us? L1 inverse L2 has got to be identity. If that's identity, L1 has to be same as L2, right? Okay. we also knew that we just proved that these two are left hand side and right hand side are the same, and these are equal to d1 and d2, and since LHS is equal to RHS, what does this convey? It says is d1 equal to d2, right? We started off by assuming that if we have two sets of factors, but what we landed up finally is that they've got to be the same, and that shows that LDU factorization or LU factorization will be always unique for a matrix A that is invertible. Now remember that we started by assuming it's symmetric and invertible, and we have to prove something else, right? So we are supposed to prove that U is equal to L transpose. Now let us see how this intermediate result is helpful for us to prove that final one. Since A is symmetric, we know that A is equal to A transpose, which means that LDU has got to be same as LDU transpose, and we know the transpose of a product is going to get reversed, and therefore we have LDU is same as U transpose D L transpose. D transpose and D has got to be the same because D is diagonal. And what do we have here? This is another set of factors for the same matrix A. How do I say this is another set of factors? Because U is upper triangular, U transpose will be lower triangular. L is low triangular, L transpose will be upper triangular, and therefore U transpose D L transpose will definitely be another set of factors for A. And what did we just prove? We said that LDU factorization is unique for a invertible matrix, and therefore we have to we can easily prove from here saying that L is same as U transpose and U is same as L transpose, and therefore we have the result with us saying A is equal to LD L transpose, right? Not only this, with symmetric matrices the computation does become a little easier if we assume a generic 3 by 3 matrix of this form. Please observe that we have taken a symmetric matrix here. You see that these values are the same. You can see the C and C and also the E and E are the same. Symmetric matrix, let's apply the row transformation. The row transformation is going to be R2 minus B by A, right? So this is my pivot and my coefficient. When I do this, I get the second row to change like this. Third one to go, the next element to go is this element C, and we will do R3 minus C by A R1, and when we do this, we get the third row changed this way. Of course we could proceed, but the interesting point is to just observe this 2 by 2 matrix, and the observation must look at these two elements, right? It remains symmetric, right? And what is the advantage of this? The advantage of this is that we really need not maintain two different computing storage elements. I think even if we are able to maintain one, we will be able to know on the other side what it is going to be. If we know Aij, we will easily know Aji as well, and therefore that reduces the space for computation and also brings down the time for computation. So if we say n cube by 3 is the amount of compute that we used for LU factorization, or say inverse, or say elimination for a matrix A, when matrix A becomes symmetric, we are going to use only half of that compute, which makes it n cube by 3 into half is equal to n cube by 6. So I am taking a simple example to show how do we do LDU factorization for a general symmetric matrix of 2 by 2, and how those matrices will look like, what will be their pattern, right? So let's do a elimination for this element on B. It's going to be R2 minus B by A R1, and this is what we get in the second row. So in order to make it a diagonal upper triangle matrix with ones on the diagonal, I'm going to divide R1 by A and R2 by C minus B square by A, and finally we get our upper triangular matrix. That's it. That's what we have written here. Our L is going to be lower triangular. This element is going to come from the single row operation, therefore the multiplier is a B by A, so I put that here. And the final D matrix is since we are divided by A and C minus B square by A, those are the terms that are sitting in my diagonal matrix, right? So this is how LDU factors would look like for a symmetric matrix. We just took a 2 by 2 example in this case, right? So that kind of brings us to the end of understanding transposes and their properties. And this session was only for trying to concentrate on what are matrix transposes and their properties. So let us end this session with a prayer. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.